Have you ever been pushed to your absolute limit? I mean, facing just profound doubt, hostility, or staggering disbelief, and you just needed an anchor of certainty.
Mm.
Not just, a comforting thought, but a real, logical, structural, and spiritual fortress to hold on to.
That feeling,
Yeah.
that perfectly captures the atmosphere in Mecca when Surah At-Tur was revealed.
It's 52nd chapter.
Exactly. And this wasn't a time of casual questioning. It was a period of intense skepticism and really active, organized aggression from the Quraysh leadership.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to dissect exactly how this revelation functions as what you could call a theological fortress.
A perfect description.
We're going to track its brilliant, almost architectural symmetry, a structure that seems designed to first instill awe, then demand intellectual rigor.
And then finally, to guide the believer into a state of resilient submission.
We're pulling together centuries of exegetical insight here, right? We're synthesizing the foundational work of classical scholars like Al-Tabari and Ibn Kathir.
Right, and blending that with the sharp contextual readings from more modern minds like Maududi and Ibn Ashur. We're going to move you through 5 distinct stages,
From cosmic oaths to the intimate secrets of the heart.
all anchored by an unshakable truth.
And the structure itself is just magnificent. It flows from these oaths of certainty to visualizing judgment. Then it shifts to the sociology of paradise.
Then a potent logical defense against all forms of disbelief.
And it concludes with very specific spiritual counsel. But it starts, most significantly, with the name itself, At-Tur.
The name is the very first strategic move. Wat-Tur, by the Mount, is an immediate definitive claim to legitimacy.
How so?
Well, the Quraysh were trying to dismiss the Prophet Muhammad's message as something totally new, a strange innovation. By swearing by the Mount, the revelation immediately roots the mission in an established, recognized lineage.
It's a reference to Mount Sinai.
Exactly. Tur, where Allah spoke to Musa, to Moses. By invoking that image, the message is validating itself, both historically and theologically.
It's a way of saying this isn't a new story.
Precisely. It's the continuation of the single, ancient, recognized transmission of divine communication. It immediately places the prophet squarely within the Abrahamic tradition. It's using history as the very first witness against their claims of falsehood.
Okay, let's unpack this opening segment because it is an overwhelming sequence. The Quran uses oaths, or qasam, and they're not just literary flourishes, are they? They're like cosmic witnesses designed to elevate the status of the truth being presented.
And to underscore the absolute certainty of the judgment that inevitably follows, the first oath is the mountain itself, Wat-Tur.
And you mentioned the specific word choice here is critical.
Oh, it's brilliant. We really have to pause on the linguistics. The word used is Tur, not the generic Arabic term for mountain, which is Jabal.
And what's the difference?
Jabal can be anything, a barren, jagged, rocky peak, but Tur specifically denotes a mountain that is blessed with vegetation, with trees.
So a living mountain. Why is that distinction so critical here?
Because it turns the mountain from just a symbol of permanence into a symbol of life-giving power. The Quraysh were saying the prophet's message was barren, that it was madness, nonsense, something that would wither and fail. By invoking a vegetated mountain, the revelation anchors itself not just in tangible reality.
But in the idea that the divine word brings spiritual life.
Exactly. It brings flourishing, much like the shade and fruit of trees flourish on a fertile slope. The mountain becomes a witness that the Creator does communicate, and that communication isn't just rigid law, it's a spiritual catalyst for growth.
That immediately changes the tone from, sheer power and awe to something more like hopeful dignity.
Yes, the continuity of guidance is life-giving.
So from that landscape, the focus shifts very quickly to a document, wa kitabin master fi rakin manshur.
And by a book inscribed in parchment unrolled.
A fascinating transition. We move from the established geological reality to the revealed written law.
And this is where scholars give us such a rich tapestry of meaning. They offer 3 primary interpretations of what this book is.
The first one, and you see this emphasized by exegetes like al-Baghawi, is the celestial archetype,
Allah al-Mahfuz, the preserved tablet.
suggesting that the entire decree of destiny is already fixed. It's all written down.
That's the cosmic level. The second interpretation, which is perhaps more common and used by someone like Al-Tabari, focuses on the revealed scriptures themselves.
The Torah, the Gospel, the Quran.
Yes, emphasizing the sequential nature of guidance. And significantly, they highlight the material described. Rak, or parchment.
And that's not just any old paper.
No, absolutely not. Rak signifies a durable, high-quality, long-lasting material. In the ancient world, you didn't record trivial things on parchment.
You saved it for the important stuff.
Treaties, sacred texts, matters of supreme legal importance. The use of this word underscores the text's permanence and its unparalleled value.
And then there's the third interpretation, which I think hits us with the most immediate sense of personal gravity.
The record of our own individual deeds.
The account that you and I are writing every single day.
Exactly. And whichever level you prefer, the cosmic blueprint, the earthly scriptures, or your personal ledger, the crucial element is the word manshur.
Meaning unrolled or spread open.
Manifest. This is the complete antithesis of hidden, esoteric, or occult knowledge.
So it's transparent. It's universally accessible. But I have to ask, if the book is so manshur, so manifest and accessible, especially in our modern age, why is denial still so widespread?
Well, that's the core of it, isn't it? That very accessibility increases the difficulty of accountability.
It raises the bar.
It absolutely raises the bar. The guidance isn't locked away. The truth is an open invitation. The very transparency of the message removes all excuses.
You can't plead ignorance as easily.
Exactly. If you were unaware of the truth in the past, maybe you had a defense. But in our age of instant communication and universal access, that plea is significantly weaker.
So the takeaway is, accountability increases exponentially with accessibility.
It has to. And if you focus on that book of deeds interpretation, it means we are writing our spiritual autobiography in indelible ink, daily. And that book is destined to be manshur unrolled for all to see. Our private choices today are shaping our public eternal destiny.
Wow. Okay, from the written word, we take this breathtaking leap into the celestial sphere, Wael Beit al-Mamur.
And by the frequented house,
This takes us dramatically from a localized mountain on Earth to the universal heights of the cosmos.
and that's a deliberate shift to counter localism. The Quraysh focused only on their Kaaba in Mecca as the center of worship. The surah introduces the metaphysical mirror of the Kaaba, al-Beit al-Mamur, which is located in the seventh heaven.
Why? What's the point?
It reinforces the idea that worship is a cosmic, universal reality, not just some tribal custom.
The scale of devotion described here, I mean, it's almost impossible to fully grasp.
It's meant to be overwhelming. The traditions from the Prophet Muhammad detail that 70,000 angels enter this celestial house every single day to perform worship.
70,000.
And once they leave, they never return because of the infinite procession of new servants. Just stop and reflect on that number. 70,000 new angels every 24 hours since the beginning of creation, and it will continue indefinitely.
That absolutely demolishes any sense of human self-importance.
It does. It forces cosmic humility. We might feel that our 2 units of prayer, our rakas, or our brief moments of devotion, are significant burdens.
But this verse just reminds us that our worship is a microdrop in an infinite, continuous ocean of angelic praise.
Right. And yet the dignity this verse offers is equally immense. Because by submitting in prayer, you are aligning yourself with that noble, ceaseless assembly of the heavens.
You move your small, flawed efforts onto this grand stage of cosmic alignment.
That is what it means to join the universal symphony of submission.
The next oath, wa as-sak al-marfu, and by the roof raised high, seems like a classic example of inviting tafakkur, deep reflection on the everyday physics we just ignore.
Absolutely. We live under a protected ceiling. The atmosphere, the magnetic fields, the sheer structural integrity of the heavens. This ceiling is constantly shielding us from cosmic radiation, meteors, environmental disaster.
It's a stability granted by an unseen power.
A power we take completely for granted. And this reflection on stability deepens right into the final major oath, which is, well, it's arguably the most terrifying one.
Wa al-bar al-mashur, and by the sea, that is mashur.
And that word, mashur, is a profound linguistic contradiction.
It holds 2 opposite meanings at the same time.
Yes, 2 antithetical meanings. First, it means filled, restrained, contained. But second, it means ignited, set on fire.
Wow.
It forces the listener to grapple with instability right where they perceive the most stability, the massive life-giving oceans.
So in its current state, the sea is restrained, which prevents it from inundating the land. That's a miracle of balance in itself.
That is the daily present miracle. But the eschatological horror is that the sea will be ignited. It connects to the day of judgment when the elements themselves revolt.
What do scholars say this refers to?
They've debated it. Does the water itself become fire? Or perhaps the vast deposit of hydrogen and oxygen separate and combust? Or even, as we know scientifically, the reality of underwater volcanoes that contain the Earth's fire only held in check for now.
Regardless of the exact mechanism, the life lesson is the same.
It is the fragility of perceived security.
It completely destroys the illusion that safety is intrinsic to the material world.
The very resource that sustains our life water carries the potential to become the agent of global punishment. This is a powerful demand for taqwa, for God consciousness.
Security isn't guaranteed by physics.
It is sustained only by divine mercy. Therefore, you must fear the one who can invert the properties of nature at a moment's notice.
So all these witnesses, the living mount, the transparent book, the infinite house, the protected sky, and this volatile sea, they all build to this undeniable crescendo in verses 7 and 8.
Inna athabarabika lawaki mallahu mindafi. Verily, the torment of your Lord will surely come to pass. There is none that can avert it.
This is the moment where all that logical weight of the oaths converts to emotional reality.
It has to. The person listening must conclude. The God who is capable of controlling all these monumental forces, the mountains, the sky, the cosmos, the seas, he must surely have the absolute authority to execute the promised punishment.
And there's that incredible historical anecdote about Jubair bin Mut'im. He was a deeply resistant Quraysh chieftain.
Yes, Jubair came to Medina with the express purpose of negotiating for prisoners of war. He was still fiercely resistant to the Prophet's message.
He was a man of logic and influence, not easily swayed by emotion.
Not at all. But he happened to hear the Prophet reciting these very verses during the evening prayer. And when the Prophet reached that culminating statement, "Verily, the torment of your Lord will surely come to pass,"
What happened?
Jubair later confessed, "My heart was about to fly."
That one verse, delivered after the cumulative authority of the entire cosmos was invoked, it just broke through his denial.
It did. He realized the logical necessity of the conclusion. It wasn't just a threat. It was the final result of a cosmic equation that had just been proven before his very ears.
And this teaches us that true certainty, Akin, requires more than just cold intellectual debate.
Absolutely. It demands spiritual exposure to the awesome, undeniable reality contained within the text itself. The mere recitation, when listened to sincerely, possesses an intrinsic authority that transcends mere syllogisms.
So with the certainty of the event now established, the surah pivots, and pivots sharply to the consequences.
Yes. It vividly illustrates the contrast between the chaos that will dismantle the physical world and the triviality that characterized the denier's psychological state.
We begin with the deconstruction of stability in verses 9 and 10, and it uses these very technical Arabic terms for cosmic collapse.
Mar and Ser.
So Mar describes the heavens convulsing, a kind of chaotic circular shaking. The stable roof raised high, sworn by just moments earlier, it loses its structural integrity.
It begins to agitate chaotically.
Sure.
And then you have Ser. The mountains, those iconic symbols of immovable permanence, are set in motion.
They cease to be anchors.
They become transient, moving like clouds in the wind. This imagery is just devastating because it attacks the very foundation of human certainty, the ground beneath our feet.
So what's the profound application for us today? I mean, we invest so much of our life, our savings, our careers, our identity in the material permanence of this world.
The takeaway is profound attachment, what we call zud. We're being warned that this stability is an absolute illusion.
If the mountains themselves are destined to move like clouds,
Then how much less permanent are our financial portfolios, our social standing, our beautifully constructed homes? The lesson is simple but very difficult. Do not build eternal hopes on a world destined to convulse.
you have to invest in the realities that survive the cosmic unmaking.
Faith, righteous deeds, and the promise of that frequented house.
So as the physical world collapses, the surah turns its focus to the deniers themselves, diagnosing their spiritual pathology in verses 11 and 12.
Then woe that day to the deniers, who are in their empty discourse amusing themselves.
This sounds like a clinical diagnosis of spiritual decay.
It is. It uses two very precise Quranic terms, qad and la'ib. These terms explain not just what they were doing, but why they remained deniers.
Let's delve into qad. You said that means wading.
That's the literal meaning, yes, to wade into deep water or mud. Metaphorically, it means engaging in discourse, argument, debate, conversation, not for the sincere pursuit of truth.
But for vanity, for confusion.
For vanity, for confusion, for falsehood. It's the intellectual equivalent of trolling. They wade into theological arguments, mocking the text, simply to distract themselves and others from the stark clarity of the message.
They aren't trying to find answers.
They're trying to muddy the waters to protect their comfortable denial.
And what about the second term, la'ib, play or amusement?
This is the critical component. It's treating serious existential, moral, and religious matters as trivial entertainment, a cultural game devoid of any eternal consequence.
So when you look at the hostility in Mecca,
A lot of it was expressed through poetry competitions, through mockery, through ridicule treating the prophet and his message as an amusing social disturbance rather than a divine warning.
the source commentary called this a critique of modern entertainment culture, and that really hits home.
It is a devastating, timeless critique. We live in a society where the deepest existential questions, the purpose of life, the inevitability of death, the reality of God, are constantly drowned out by an endless stream of digital distraction.
And trivial debates and performative outrage.
We are rewarded for cod-wading into arguments online, and we are addicted to laib, treating our time and existence as infinite amusement. The Surah warns that this mindset, where distraction replaces deep purpose, is the quickest path to woe.
So the practical application is inescapable. A kind of seriousness, Jediah, has to become the fundamental orientation of a believer's life.
Especially when confronting the distractions of the modern world. And this lack of seriousness is then met with a kind of divine mockery and irony in verses 13 through 16.
Where the punishment perfectly mirrors the crime. It's incredible. Because they physically pushed away the truth and the prophet with their mockery in this world.
They are now physically pushed into the fire.
Yes, Udon. A violent, forceful thrust.
And the angels then deliver this cutting taunt, directly referencing their own accusations.
Is this magic, or do you not see? They are forced to confront the reality that their worldly rhetoric, calling the Quran a delusion, was the true self-delusion.
But the most devastating judgment is what you call the failure of Stoicism. Burn therein, patience or no patience, it is the same.
This is a profoundly important distinction about the spiritual value of patience.
In this life, saber patience, perseverance, is a huge spiritual virtue. It transforms suffering into reward. It acts as a means of atonement.
It can change your ultimate outcome. But in hell, that spiritual currency expires. Completely.
Your patience becomes valueless.
It's mere brute endurance without any hope of redemption or change or spiritual elevation. You can clench your jaw for 1,000 years and it changes nothing. So the critical life lesson is that the time to utilize the transforming power of saber is now.
Right now. Patience in avoiding sin, patience in performing rigorous obedience, patience in dealing with hostility. Because once the reckoning arrives, that tool is rendered utterly useless. You have to stockpile patience in this world.
Okay, after all of that, the Surah performs this radical, necessary shift.
Yes, it moves from the claustrophobic terror of judgment to the spacious, open, communal gardens of paradise.
And this shift isn't just for emotional relief, is it?
No, it introduces one of the most reassuring and sociologically powerful revelations about the afterlife, the eternal family bond.
Let's first establish the setting of bliss in verses 17 through 20. We get the sensory rewards: rich fruit, desired meat, pure spouses.
We're in.
But what the commentators really focus on is the spatial arrangement.
Absolutely. The emphasis is on communal joy. They are reclining on thrones lined up, facing one another. This is key.
It's not an isolated pleasure.
No, the vision of paradise is profoundly social. Joy is meant to be witnessed, celebrated, and shared communally. And this setting provides the perfect context for the greatest social reward of all, the family reunion.
Which brings us to verse 21. This feels like the absolute centerpiece of human comfort and concern. It addresses the deepest anxiety of any faithful parent: separation from their children in the afterlife.
If their ranks differ, yes. The verse states, "And those who believed and whose descendants followed them in faith, we will join with them their descendants, and we will not deprive them of anything of their deeds."
That is a staggering promise. It clarifies that the bonds of kinship, Salat ar-Rahim, they continue into eternity.
They do.
But how does this miracle actually happen? If a parent is in the highest rank and their child only achieved a lower rank of Iman, does the parent get demoted or something?
This is where classical scholarship, referencing figures like Ibn Abbas, clarifies the mechanism of divine grace, or fadl. It's the concept of the elevation of rank. If the child qualified only for a lower station, Allah, out of pure surplus generosity, elevates the offspring to the parent's higher rank.
And the purpose is stated right in the verse.
Yes, to comfort their eyes. لِتَقَرَّ بِهِمْ أَعْيُنُهُمْ. It's a beautiful idiom in Arabic, meaning to complete their ultimate joy and satisfaction.
So the parent's reward isn't diminished. Their rank is untouched.
Not at all. Instead, the child's reward is magnified by grace to facilitate the reunion. It's an act of pure, unearned fatal,
That distinction is so vital. It's not merit-based, it's grace-based.
provided the basic condition is met.
And that non-negotiable condition is that the offspring must have the basic ticket of Iman.
Follow them in faith, as the verse explicitly states. If the child fundamentally rejected the faith, like the son of Prophet Nuh, for example, they are excluded from this promise. Faith is the necessary foundational pass for entry.
Right after this incredible promise, the Surah reminds us of individual accountability.
Yes. Every person, for what he earned, is pledged.
This maintains the theological balance. You can't just rely solely on the piety of your ancestors.
Exactly. Personal effort and personal faith are essential for entry. But once that entry is secured, the strength of your kinship bond activates this mechanism of divine grace for maximum communal reward.
So if we look at this through the lens of modern life, this verse fundamentally redefines what successful parenting even is.
It truly does. Worldly success, financial standing, academic degrees, it's all temporary. Eternal success is measured by whether you have raised a child who qualifies as a partner in eternity.
So the deepest investment a parent can make isn't in college funds,
But in the child's iman. Because their presence in paradise will literally complete the parent's joy in the highest ranks. This makes religious education the ultimate act of Silat ar-Rahim, of maintaining kinship ties.
Now, moving to the psychological state of these successful believers, verses 25 through 28 reveal a really deep insight. As they enjoy their bliss, they reflect on their past and they say, "Indeed, we were previously among our people fearful," mushfikin.
And this is a powerful paradox. The deniers felt safe in the world and engaged in la'ib, in play. The believers, conversely, felt mushidian. We have to carefully define this term, ishfaq.
It's the state of feeling a solicitous fear.
Right. It's not the paralyzing terror that the deniers will experience facing judgment.
So what is it?
Ishfaq is the vigilant, anxious care of a person guarding something precious. Imagine a traveler carrying a priceless diamond through a dark, uncertain road. They're constantly nervous, constantly checking their treasure.
The believers maintain this compassionate anxiety.
This solicitude. And they did so even among their families, the one place where people naturally relax and become heedless. They were always worried about their actions, their acceptance, the purity of their intention.
The insight for us is startling then. To feel spiritually safe and complacent in this world is actually a sign of danger.
Whereas the background anxiety of the ishfaq about one's ultimate standing is actually a sign of spiritual safety and vigilance.
That is the core message. And they conclude, that very anxiety is what drove their actions and led to the favor from God.
Famana Allahu Alayna, that consistent, vigilant fear motivated them to pray, to give, to obey, ultimately leading to their deliverance.
So the lesson for us is to harness that anxiety, to let ishfaq fuel our devotion.
And ensure we do not relax our spiritual guard simply because we are comfortable in our social or familial environment.
After providing the comfort and certainty of paradise, the Surah returns to the intellectual battlefield. This section is the moment of direct logical engagement.
And it's often hailed as one of those concise and devastating refutations of skepticism found in the entire Quran.
The initial challenge the prophet faced was this relentless campaign of character assassination from the Quraysh.
Right. They couldn't refute the message itself, so they attacked the messenger. Verses 29 through 34 just deconstruct these ad hominem attacks.
And the accusations were contradictory to the point of being absurd. He's a kahin, a soothsayer.
A majnun, a madman.
And a sharir, a poet.
The Quran exposes the fundamental incoherence of this strategy. These roles are mutually exclusive.
How so?
Well, a soothsayer claims hidden knowledge for profit and temporal power. The prophet offered moral reform and endured intense hostility for it. A poet, like the Quraysh masters they admired, prioritized aesthetic flow and tribal praise. The Quran prioritized complex legal and ethical mandates.
And most obviously, a madman, a majnun, speaks incoherently.
And yet the Quran established a sophisticated, internally consistent, universal social and legal framework. It doesn't add up.
They were just throwing everything at the wall, hoping something would stick.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the ultimate rebuttal comes with this powerful, sarcastic jab in verse 32. It asks, or do their minds command them to say this?
It's challenging their very claim to intellectual superiority.
Exactly. They prided themselves on being the people of logic and eloquence, yet their unified, organized attack was a scattershot of mutually exclusive absurdities. Their rejection was not based on reason. It was based on an arrogant refusal to submit.
And this sets the perfect table for the philosophical core, what you call the argument from contingency.
The logical trilemma. It's found in verse 35.
This verse is arguably the most compressed theological argument in Scripture. It forces you to confront the origin of existence.
The great commentator, Fakhr al-Din al-Razi, he emphasized the comprehensiveness of this verse. He said it summarizes entire volumes of philosophy in a few lines.
So it presents the human being with three exhaustive possibilities for their origin.
For universal and human origin, yes. And two of them are logically impossible, leaving the third, the uncreated creator, as the necessary conclusion.
Let's break down the possibilities they're forced to confront. The first one is, or were they created by nothing?
This is just immediately rejected by the principle of causality. Nothingness, absolute non-existence, has no power, no will, no capability to cause existence.
Can 0 plus 0 spontaneously equal 1?
No. The assumption that non-existence can cause existence violates every law of logic we observe in the universe. So that position is logically defunct.
Okay, what's the second possibility?
Or were they the creators of themselves?
And this is rejected because, why?
It leads to an unresolvable temporal paradox. To create yourself, you must logically exist before you exist in order to perform the act of creation. It's an infinite loop of contradiction.
You can't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps if you haven't bought the boots yet.
A perfect analogy. Everything contingent, everything that exists after not existing, requires a cause outside of itself. To claim self-creation is to deny the essential nature of contingency.
And the third question, which is implied by the structure, is, did they create the heavens and the earth?
This broadens the challenge. If you can't even explain your own origin, how can you claim authority over the entire cosmos? And this implicitly dismisses the idea of creation by another contingent being.
Because that just leads to infinite regress.
Right. Who created that being? And the one before that? You have to stop somewhere to identify the true ultimate cause.
So by eliminating these logically impossible or insufficient alternatives,
Created by nothing, self-created, or infinitely dependent contingent beings.
the verse forces the mind to the only remaining necessary conclusion.
The existence of an uncreated creator. A being who is wajib al-wujud, necessary existence. A being who is independent, eternal, and the ultimate cause of all contingent reality.
It's a powerful tool.
Al-Razi said that this concise trilemma forces the human fitra, our innate disposition, to acknowledge this necessity. It remains a cornerstone for shifting the burden of proof. We ask the skeptic, if you reject the creator, you must defend how existence emerged from absolute nothingness or how a thing could logically create itself.
After that philosophical slam dunk, the surah returns to the practical daily arrogance of the deniers. A lot challenges their actual source of knowledge.
Yes, in verse 38, if they reject revelation, do they have a stairway to heaven to collect their own celestial data?
It's a brilliant challenge of intellectual authority. If you claim to know better than the prophet, where is your proof? Where is your data from the unseen world?
And it highlights that their position is based on nothing but speculative assumption and pride.
This section culminates in a searing psychological analysis of deep-seated denial, found in verse 44.
And if they were to see a fragment from the sky falling, they would say, it is merely clouds piled up.
This might be the most critical life lesson in the entire section. It's a study in confirmation bias and spiritual blindness.
It is. The Quraysh were demanding physical signs, demanding miracles. Allah says that even if he granted a sign of catastrophic magnitude, a piece of the sky literally falling, their mind, already utterly committed to denial, would immediately rationalize it away.
They'd just say it's a common weather event.
Mere stacked clouds.
So no evidence is sufficient for the willfully arrogant.
Absolutely. The problem is not with the sign. The problem is with the spiritual sincerity of the viewer. For the sincere believer, the mount, the book, the logical trilemma, that's more than sufficient. But for the heart committed to denial, any evidence, no matter how catastrophic or clear, will simply be recategorized to fit their desired conclusion.
Having dispatched the external intellectual hostility with overwhelming logic, the surah now performs its final, most intimate movement.
Yes, it turns the lens inward, addressing the prophet, and by extension, any believer who is exhausted by opposition. It provides practical spiritual counsel for resilience.
The antidote to burnout and the hostility of plotting enemies is found in this affectionate idiom in verse 48.
And be patient, O Muhammad, for the decision of your Lord, for indeed you are in our eyes. By Ayunina.
In our eyes. That is one of the most profoundly comforting phrases in the entire Quran.
It's an idiom of personalized, affectionate care. Ibn Kathir interprets it specifically as meaning under our direct watch, our protection, and our immediate care.
That completely transforms the nature of sabr, of patience.
It shifts patience from a burden born out of sheer helplessness, a last resort, to a protected labor of love.
How so?
Well, as Al-Sadi explains it, this phrase implies that Allah is actively pleased with and validating the prophet's every action and effort. When you realize that the Lord of the cosmos is personally watching your struggle and your effort.
Your patience is not a weakness.
No, it's a labor conducted under divine observation, which guarantees ultimate protection. You are not alone. You are under divine surveillance, but a surveillance born of affection.
And this counsel ends by prescribing the specific spiritual rhythm required to sustain that resilience.
The command to glorify Allah, Tasbih, in verses 48 and 49.
The command is linked to 3 crucial daily junctures. And exalt Allah with praise of your Lord when you arise.
And in a part of the night exalt him, and after the setting of the stars.
The flexibility of when you arise ensures that every transition from sleep, from prayer, from a meeting, starting a new endeavor, is dedicated to God consciousness.
But the culmination is the most specific. After the setting of the stars, Idbar an-Nujum.
And this time is specifically identified in prophetic tradition.
As referring to the 2 voluntary units of prayer before the mandatory Fajr, the dawn prayer.
So the surah that began with the terrifying public certainty of the mount, the sea, and the judgment, it concludes intimately, quietly, at the cusp of dawn.
And this provides the ultimate spiritual strategy. You cannot sustain the external fight for truth, the philosophical debates, the social hostilities, the patience under persecution, if you neglect the internal fight of the soul.
So the deep, intimate worship prescribed at the end, particularly that devotion at dawn.
It's the necessary refueling station required to maintain the resilience granted by Bi'ayinina. Spiritual devotion balances the rigor of the logical battle.
What a powerful, integrated manifesto Surah At-Tur presents. It binds together cosmic history with the mount, existential physics with the sea, human sociology with the family reunion,
Logical philosophy with the trilemma, and personal spirituality with the dawn.
It truly is a unified, inescapable argument for submission built on awe, reason, and profound comfort.
It uses the physical reality we see to prove the spiritual certainty we so often deny, and then it provides the spiritual roadmap to endure the consequences of that certainty.
So the overarching lesson is that truth is fundamentally inescapable. You can try to run from it, you can deny it through qad and la'ib, through empty discourse and amusement.
But the book is inscribed, the mountains will move, and the decree is passing.
The wise individual is the one who transforms their spiritual anxiety, their ishfaken, into concrete, vigilant action.
Patiently securing their safety and the safety of their family under the personalized, watchful eyes of their Lord until they meet him in the eternal gardens.
And that leads directly to the surah's final, incredibly provocative thought, which is drawn from its counsel in verse 45.
So leave them until they meet their day in which they will be struck insensible.
This instruction, it radically prioritizes your spiritual energy.
It really does. If the arrogance, the mockery, and the empty discourse of those who oppose the truth are destined to be struck senseless anyway, if their eventual fate is inevitable, how much of your limited time, your energy, and your spiritual capital should you truly spend engaging them?
The surah advises the believer to be patient, to focus on securing that intimate, sustaining connection with Allah at dawn.
And let the inevitable consequence of time handle the deniers. Spiritual vigilance, that ishfaq, is often a far more fruitful investment than endless debate.